Hello, everyone. Hi. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. It's the weekend edition of Leisrealtalk. After CCP's fourth plenum is over, what's the biggest China news right now? Well, without a doubt, President Trump's Asia trip. All eyes are on his meeting with Xi Jinping on October 30th. Between fentanyl, rare earth restrictions, soybean imports, and the case of Apple Daily's founder, Jimmy Lai, there's plenty on the table. But the one issue everyone's watching is that the 155% tariff set to kick in on November 1st. We'll save that topic for next week. For now, the other big China story comes from The Times, reporting that, here we go, that the Chinese and Russians are waging a sex war against the United States. That's right, a sex war. And the most spy-infested place outside Washington, D.C., Silicon Valley. Young, attractive Chinese women are being deployed to target American tech professionals. And Elon Musk even reposted the story and joked with this post. I don't know if you can see. Is it too small? Yeah. He said, if she's a 10, you are an asset. So, I'm sure you're all thinking, have I met a Chinese woman that's a 10? Does that mean that I'm an asset? Well, if you have met one, you probably are. All right. According to the report, a senior U.S. counterintelligence official described it this way. He said, adversaries, especially China, are using an all-of-society mobilization to infiltrate America's tech and talent networks. It's common, he said, for Chinese operatives to move in close, marry the target, have kids, and run lifelong intelligence operations. I don't know how people could live like that, but apparently Chinese women can, or men in some cases. So we've talked about these honey trap operations before, like this one. Remember? I talked about that a few weeks ago. Larry Ellison, founder of Oracle, 81 years old, and his 33-year-old Chinese wife, now reportedly under U.S. investigation, I heard. And then we have Amadeus Jensen Huang. He's almost certainly a high priority target with his entire family being closely studied and under scrutiny by the CCP. But let's be honest, these stories all follow the same playbook, whether it's a billionaire or a brilliant programmer in Silicon Valley. It's the same old method every time. Beauty trap. You already know how it works. So tonight, let's skip the tabloid gossip. I want to focus on the events that actually matter. I mean, not that this doesn't matter. There's just not much I can talk about. Let's talk about the real events that reshape US-China relations and the global balance of power. You may have heard bits and pieces, but I'll connect the dots for you so you can see their full significance. So let's break them down one by one. Before we look at geopolitics or diplomacy, let's follow the money, because that's where the real story begins. And the first case, unfolding quietly in Cambodia and also in the United Kingdom, just exposed one of Beijing's darkest financial networks. By now, you've already heard about this company. It's called the Prince Holding Group. So the United States, working with the United Kingdom intelligence agency, has indicted this company, the owner of this company, or the founder of this company, So this is the company, Prince Holding Group, a Cambodia company. So on October 14th, federal prosecutors in New York unsealed charges against its founder, Chen Zhi, who's originally from China, accusing him of telecom fraud and money laundering. Now, according to the indictment, Prince Holding isn't just a business empire. It's one of Asia's largest underground crime networks, running dozens of companies across more than 30 countries. And this man, Chen Zhi, is only 37 years old. He holds both British and Cambodian citizenship. He even carries a duke title, not a British duke title, but a Cambodian duke title. And he served as an advisor to former Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen. The company's influence in Cambodia is huge, and it's often glorified by Chinese state media. So a former Chinese intelligence officer known as Eric says Prince Holding works directly with China's security apparatus, basically acting as Beijing's agent in Southeast Asia. And Eric claims the company handles funding, manpower, and logistics for Chinese covert operations. He calls it a financial base for the CCP's spy network globally. And he says he once worked undercover for China's Ministry of Public Security and joined Prince Holding as a cover. And one of his assignments was to lure overseas dissidents. He even named a contact inside the company, Li, who was a senior official from Chongqing's Public Security Bureau. And he says the company poured money into local elections and ran businesses from real estate to finance to tourism, even keeping its own hacker team. Yeah, the company has its own hacking team. And most of these operations weren't about profit. They were about washing dirty money under Beijing's protection. And another Chinese analyst, Hu Caiping, said that the company Prince isn't just a scam network. It's a political weapon. It helped China pressure Palau to break ties with Taiwan by opening casinos, laundering money, and buying up land near ports, airports, and radar stations. So who exactly is this man, Chen Zhi? According to a Chinese-Canadian dissident by the name of Sheng Xue, this man is the nephew of Guangdong Party Secretary Huang Kunming, who is... Where is Huang Kunming? Here's Huang Kunming. Here's Huang Kunming. Yeah, so he is the nephew of Huang Kunming. And he managed the wealth of Xi Jinping's sister, Qi Qiaoqiao. Where is it? This is Qi Qiaoqiao. So this is the first sister of China. So this 37-year-old man, who's a duke, supposedly is a white glove for the Xi Jinping's sister, Qi Qiaoqiao, who actually oversees the Xi family wealth. And also he manages, he handles the money for the Xi Jinping's Fujian faction. So Miss Sheng, the Canadian dissident, said that telecom scams were just his side hustle. His real business was laundering money for party elites. So the Trump administration must know this. The US crackdown was massive. Officials seized 127,271 bitcoins, worth roughly 15 billion US dollars. And the US government also froze his 19 London properties and sanctioned 147 individuals and entities linked to this group. The Taiwanese government reportedly assisted in the investigation. So Ms. Shen estimates that Qi Qiaoqiao, the first sister, may have lost a quarter of her assets overnight due to this indictment. So this isn't just about shutting down CCP's crime ring overseas. It's a direct hit on the Xi family's offshore wealth network. Okay, so that's event number one. Let's talk about event number two. Okay, this is about Japan's new prime minister. Its first female prime minister, Sanae Takaichi, whose rise has become Beijing's worst nightmare. So she vowed to become a prime minister of Japan when she was 24, and 3 decades later, her dream became true. And she is deeply inspired by two politicians, her mentor, Shinzo Abe, Japan's former prime minister who died in an assassination, and also Britain's Margaret Thatcher. So she's one of the first politicians in Japan to push for strict foreign investment reviews, rebuilding supply chains in semiconductors, AI, and new materials, and strengthening ties with democratic partners. And she doesn't mince words. She's called the CCP the biggest risk to Japan's national security, warning that Beijing uses investments, student exchanges, and corporate takeovers to steal Japan's technology. And on defense, she wants to revise Japan's constitution, turning the self-defense forces into a true national defense army with preemptive strike capability. She's also called for better missile defense and deeper intel sharing with the US. Diplomatically, she draws a clear line. She said, I respect the Chinese people, but I'm deeply worried about the Chinese Communist Party. So she refuses to let Beijing twist criticism of the CCP into anti-China rhetoric. Her message is sharp but respectful. She said, I oppose tyranny, not the Chinese people. She's also a strong ally of Taiwan, openly saying a crisis in Taiwan is a crisis for Japan. That alone hit a red line in Beijing. Now, not long after she became the leader of the Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, the CCP tried to block her rise. LDP's coalition partner of 26 years, the Komeito Party, suddenly quit just 10 days after China's ambassador, this guy, this man, just after he secretly met with the leader of the Komeito Party. Now, Beijing's influence game backfired spectacularly. Within 10 days, Takaichi secured outside support from Japan's Innovation Party and won independence and stabilized her coalition. So on October 21st, she won both houses of parliament and became Japan's 104th prime minister. The result, Beijing's Tokyo blockade collapsed. The move exposed China's political interference. It damaged Komeito's reputation and sent the new prime minister's popularity soaring past 55% on her first day. Japan's stock market jumped on that day. Now Japan is shifting from a passive US ally to an active one, active regional power, especially around Taiwan. So this is Beijing's worst nightmare. A CCP-linked outlet called 牛弹琴 called her the female Trump and predicted that she would last 3 years. That just shows Beijing's anxiety, right? But Beijing sees this. Actually, this was Beijing seriously felt the pain when she was elected, because this was one of its biggest diplomatic setbacks in East Asia, a region where the CCP has long relied on cultivating pro-Beijing politicians. They've been largely successful in South Korea and Taiwan, even recently backing a pro-Beijing chairwoman to lead Taiwan's KMT party. But Takaichi's rise completely broke that pattern. So her victory is a major win for Washington and a serious blow to Beijing's influence strategy. And that's why Xi Jinping didn't send her a single word of congratulations. And it's very odd. Something he routinely did for previous Japanese prime ministers, right? He did that for three of her predecessors during the 13 years that Xi Jinping has been in power. Yeah, so he didn't. He didn't send a letter of congratulations, but the Premier Li Qiang did. All right, so next event is the Anonymous 64 cyber offensive. While the CCP was having its fourth plenum, an anti-CCP hacker group called Anonymous 64, the number 64 references June 4th, the date of the 1989 Tiananmen massacre. So this group, Anonymous 64, launched 4 coordinated cyber attacks against the Chinese government. So they hit everything: government websites, police systems, defense and aerospace firms, propaganda outlets, and even top universities. Their goal, to expose what they called the 15th five-year plan scam. So on October 22nd, they announced that they've hacked 4 CCP websites and intercepted high-level talks. They got, this is the Anonymous 64 group. So here's the website. Images. Yeah, more images. Anyways, so the biggest target was China Council for the Promotion of International Trade. Its homepage replaced with an image showing CCP officials feasting while slaves suffered under table. And the banner reads, "No slavery, we want freedom." Actually, you could see that better. This one here. "No slavery, we want freedom. No lies, we want truth." And then the top banner says, "Without the Communist Party, there would be a new China." Because the CCP's original slogan is, there would be no new China without the Communist Party. So they changed it to, without the Communist Party, there would be a new China. And dozens of other websites were also hit, from local party portals to propaganda outlets like China International News Network, all replaced with the same image and articles blasting the regime. And later waves went deeper, targeting military suppliers tied to aerospace, energy, and chip R&D. And then the final wave, the fourth and the final wave, hit universities like the Fudan University in Shanghai, calling on students to open your eyes and refuse to be puppets. So this group, Anonymous 64, isn't new. They've hit the CCP before. They often time their attacks to major political meetings. Like this one was timed to the 4th plenum. But before, they have timed with other, earlier in the year, I think they timed it with the 2 sessions. So it looks like an information war aimed at breaking the Great Firewall of China has started, and with the purpose of getting the truth out to the Chinese people. I think this is tremendous. All right, the next one took place in Europe. You probably have already heard about this company, Nexperia. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So finally, Europe's turn in the US-China tech war. And the battleground isn't in Taiwan, it's in Netherlands. And everyone knows ASML or ASML, the Dutch chip giant, but this one it's the crisis centers on this company, Nexperia, which is a semiconductor firm fully owned by a Chinese tech company called Wingtech. Wingtech. Yeah, this is the parent company. So Nexperia used to be part of a company called NXP Semiconductors, which was a Dutch company. They sold its arm in 2016 for 2.75 billion to two Chinese private equity firms. And then 2 years later, Wingtech, backed by Chinese state funds, took control and eventually full ownership of this Dutch, or formerly Dutch, chip company. You see, Chinese have all of this mapped out. They first let two private equity firms to buy this branch, and then they sold it to a Chinese tech company. So, I mean, they have everything planned out ahead of time. Westerners are often fooled, into believing that these Chinese equity firms are just like any other private equity firms. Okay, so soon after that, most of Nexperia's production moved to China. By now, about 80% of its output comes from Chinese factories. Wingtech became a centerpiece in Beijing's semiconductor self-reliance plan, buying tech assets worldwide. It tried to take over the UK's Newport wafer fab before London blocked the deal on national security grounds. But anyways, the Chinese Wingtech company was blacklisted by the US in 2023. And later in September 2025, the Dutch intelligence found evidence that Nexperia, or the company's core technology, has been quietly transferred to China. So then what happened was unprecedented. The Dutch government invoked a Cold War era law to protect national interests. It suspended Wingtech's chairman from all Nexperia's roles and appointing an independent trustee. In other words, a forced takeover of the Chinese-owned company to keep control of the technology. So, but here's where it gets wild, or it got wild. Nexperia's China branch rebelled. On October 17th, management there told staff to ignore orders from the Dutch headquarters and operate independently. Beijing then banned all chip exports from Nexperia China, forcing the company to trade only inside China and settle everything in renminbi, because now 80% of the production comes from China. And that created a major supply shock. Nexperia's chips, though not cutting edge, are essentials for cars. So German companies like Volkswagen and Bosch and others warned production could grind to a halt due to this Chinese rebellion or suspension of Chinese export of its product. So the fallout awoke Europe, right? After years of chasing cheap manufacturing, Europe suddenly realized it had become a hostage of China's supplied or China's supply chains. So Germany canceled its foreign minister's trip to China, I think this week, maybe next week, and announced coordination with the Netherlands and EU partners and doubled down on its microelectronics strategy under the EU Chip Act to reduce dependence on Beijing. So in short, China's strategy of using corporate takeovers to bypass Western tech controls just backfired, extending the chip war to Europe and triggering Europe's biggest wake-up call ever. So that's a major event. Okay, next, moving on. A silent uprising inside China. So something happening inside China. Let's move to that. This is a picture taken in the last, I think, 24 hours. So on October 25th, that's today, right, today. Right after the CCP's 10th fourth plenum ended, two anti-CCP banners suddenly appeared on a busy street in Beijing's Sanlitun district. This is one of the city's most famous shopping areas. It used to be full of foreign tourists. So the two banners read, "The Communist Party is an anti-human, anti-humanity cult. It will bring endless disaster to China." And then it says, "Lift the party ban, allow free party formation, free competition, and free choice. Build a new China of freedom, humanity, and the rule of law." So the photos show someone holding a loudspeaker right above the banners. I think if I make this bigger, you can actually see. Yeah, there's a person holding a loudspeaker talking to passersby. Nobody knows who that person is or where he is now. But soon after, a writer who lives in Italy, a Chinese writer, his name or her name is Li Ying, posted a follow-up photo on X showing security officers have removed the banners. So now this wasn't just an isolated act. Throughout the summer and early fall, anti-CCP banners and slogans have quietly appeared across different Chinese cities. A pattern that's beginning to look like small sparks of resistance breaking through the silence. But this one is in the heart of Beijing and right after the fourth plenum. So it has the biggest impact. And also on October the 9th, the Chinese government launched a massive nationwide crackdown on underground churches, targeting one of China's largest house churches, the Beijing Xi'an Church, which was founded in 2007 by a Korean Chinese, by Pastor Ezra Jing, an ethnic Korean from Northeast China. So Xi'an Church became one of the most influential unregistered congregations in China before authorities shut it down. I think they shut it down in 2018. Yeah. So now the Pastor Jin and his community are once again under attack. So far, more than 30 people have been arrested, including pastors, preachers, and regular church members. Some are detained, some have disappeared. The meeting sites have been sealed and all church funds confiscated. So human rights groups say the only crime was praying together, reading the Bible, and helping neighbors, and refusing to register under the government-controlled church system. So in China, any church that won't submit to the state's official system is labeled an illegal organization. And the wave of arrests isn't just in Beijing, it's hitting Shanghai, Zhejiang, Shandong, Guangdong, Hainan, and Guangxi. So it's a coordinated nationwide operation. And his daughter, Pastor Jing's daughter, do I have a picture? I don't have a picture of her. She works in the U.S. Senate. She lives in Washington. And so she hasn't seen her father for 6 years. And she said that her father knew this day would come. Um, so so by the way, this church group grew during the pandemic. So when the state-run churches were forced to shut down, Zion Church went online and they kept growing. And so it now has followers in over 40 cities, meeting in more than 100 prayer sites, sometimes in karaoke rooms, in restaurants, or even private apartments. So this kind of grassroots independent faith organizations is growing beyond state control. And that's exactly what the CCP fears the most. Um, so the Wall Street Journal and Associate Press has reported the case, and Marco Rubio condemned the CCP's actions. So it's not alone. This is only one of the many religious groups that are being persecuted in China. For example, the largest human rights, the largest religious group that's being persecuted in China is the Falun Gong. They've been persecuted for 26 years. So here you have some followers of Falun Gong holding a banner that says truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance in Tiananmen Square, and they're arrested. Some of them are murdered for their organs. And the persecution of Falun Gong is the largest in scale because the government estimated that about 100 million people were practicing Falun Gong before the crackdown. And that number exceeded the 60 million Chinese Communist Party members at the time. So, in China, nothing is allowed to be bigger than the party itself. So hence, Jiang Zemin started the persecution, but Xi Jinping made it global. It was during Xi Jinping's time that he made the persecution of Falun Gong global, cross the border. So CCP affiliates in the West are now attacking Falun Gong and Falun Gong organizations. Do you know that from March 2024 to June 2025, which is only about a year and about 15 months, there were 154 anonymous bomb threats targeting Falun Gong organizations and the Shenyun Performing Arts Troupe, which is the performing arts group that this is one of their posters that tour around the world. You have seen their colorful posters. So targeting Falun Gong and Shenyun Performing Arts, and also U.S. lawmakers and individuals and organizations that support Falun Gong. So although none of these bomb threats were carried out, but they're serious. I mean, within 15 months, 154 anonymous bomb threats targeting Falun Gong and anyone who supports them. So what does that say? Okay. I think the U.S. government is actually investigating into these. That's what I heard. So in closing, what I want to say is, if you line up all of these stories, the U.S. indictment of a Xi family-controlled state security affiliated crime ring, Japan's new prime minister, who is a diehard supporter of Taiwan and a strong U.S. ally, the anonymous 64 cyber war that lasted days and in 4 waves, and the tech showdown in the Netherlands that woke up Europe, and then this quiet rebellion in Beijing and the religious revolution inside China. You can really see the bigger picture. So Beijing is being squeezed from outside and inside. Overseas, its covert networks are being exposed. Its sex warfare influence campaigns are collapsing. At home, I mean, on the note of the sex warfare, I mean, I have been talking about beauty trap for years. I did a number of programs on that subject, but I'm just happy that the mainstream media outlets are finally reporting on that. But it took them how many years? I mean, this has been going on for decades. This is a subject that I'm very familiar with for decades, but it took Western media outlets decades to finally report it. It's just mind it's mind blowing. It's unbelievable. We allowed it to happen. We allowed it to happen. Seriously. So yeah, so it's collapsing. But now finally, I mean, gladly, it's being recognized, right? So CCP's influence campaigns are being exposed. And at home, more and more ordinary Chinese are waking up and they dare to say no. And the timing couldn't be worse for Xi Jinping. The Trump-Xi summit in Seoul on October 30th comes as Xi Jinping faces pressure on every front. And meanwhile, if you think about it, the US and its allies are tightening their coordination using law, technology, and intelligence to push back and protect the global system. So I think when Trump and Xi sit down in Seoul, Xi Jinping will be cornered by exposure and dissent, and Trump will try to set new rules without igniting a new Cold War. That's the essence of their meeting. But we don't know what will happen until next week. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We will cover the meeting in Seoul and next week and talk about what it really means for China and for the United States and for everyone else. All right, that's what I have. I feel compelled to give you these stories because we haven't really covered them in the past week or so because we focused on CCP politics and the fourth plenum. But I think it's time to share with you these important developments that I think will have a major impact on geopolitics involving China. So that's my update for tonight. I hope it's helpful. All right, let's see. Let's get rid of this. Let me see. Questions? Comments? All right, let's see. The Saturday night's live stream is always somehow Saturday night's live stream is I mean, it's weekend, so we should have more entertainment value for Saturday night. But somehow I really feel the Thursday night's live stream is more lively for me. I don't know why. Maybe because we were anticipating the weekend and therefore it's more exciting. And now the weekend is here. We're midway through the weekend and therefore it's less exciting. Lei, someone said, why do you think so many sources got it wrong about Xi Jinping losing power and what happened to General Liu Yuan? I don't think people got it wrong. I don't think Xi Jinping has regained power. He appeared to have regained power. I mean, we could pretty much tell by the Xi Jinping-Trump meeting. China already made concession, right, by placing a huge soybean orders ahead of the Trump-Xi meeting. That's a gesture. China has been very difficult, has been bluffing by using the soybean deals. But all of a sudden, they turned 180 degrees and placed a huge order this week. So, if we see China making major concessions in Seoul, or at least at the meeting, then we know that Xi Jinping has lost power because he wouldn't do that. So we can't really say so many sources are wrong about Xi Jinping losing power. What people really think has happened, I mean, Cai Xia, who is a very well-respected scholar or dissident who left China. She's a princeling herself, and she used to teach at the Central Party School, 中央党校. So I watched an interview she did with someone like yesterday. She was giving her insight, and she described the current situation in Zhongnanhai as and what did she say? It's a power balance. Like they reached an ugly balance between them. So they're stuck. There's no winner, there's no loser. They came together because they all want to protect the regime from falling apart. You can't really say Xi Jinping won. You can say Xi Jinping didn't lose. But you cannot say Xi Jinping won. You cannot say the party elders or the other faction, the anti-Xi camp, lost. So no one loses. No one, they're just stuck in this temporary balance, so that the regime isn't tipped over into a free fall. So I think that's a very accurate assessment of the situation in CCP politics right now. What happened to General Liu Yuan? Well, we didn't see him. He stayed behind. We don't know. I mean, he could be actively involved without ever appearing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we haven't heard anything about him. But that's a good question. Okay. This name. How do I pronounce your name? Qin. As much I want to try. China Risenafol. Venezuela's Cuban Missile Crisis, July 2nd, 2024. Nukes got through. Now USS Ford committed to make sure no narco boat gets to U.S. shore with a nuke. That's why CC Southern resigned. He missed it. CC Southern. Who's CC Southern? Who is CC Southern? I'm sorry, I don't necessarily know all these jargons. So if you could elaborate, but thank you very much for the super sticker. I'm not quite sure who that is. Firefly. Well, thank you, Firefly. Thank you. All right, here's a question. Catherine, who just concluded a video where she says she has been ousted and it's just a matter of time until news is released. There are many people who hold that view. I mean, I think I'm the moderate. I mean, there are two sides. The two sides have engaged in these fierce debates. One side believes that Xi Jinping is fully in control. The other side believes Xi Jinping has completely lost power or even freedom. He's he's ousted and is only a puppet. I think I'm in the middle, but more towards. I mean, Xi Jinping definitely has lost power. He does not control the military, even though he's fighting back. I think the assessment that Xi Jinping has 50% of his authority is very accurate. So I think right now Xi Jinping controls 10% of the military, 20% of the personnel, 50% of the economy, and 80% of foreign policies, and then 90% of the propaganda. machine. Is that clear? Yeah. So going from 10% of the military, 20% of personnel decisions, 50% of the economy, 80% of foreign policies, or you could say 70%. I mean, there's really no difference. And then 90 to 95% of the propaganda machine. And so overall, he has 50% of the power. I think that's a very, very accurate assessment of Xi Jinping's power right now. So I can't say he's ousted, because if he's ousted, he has zero power, right? So in some matters, he's a puppet, but he still has some power. So that's where they are. I think I answered that question. All right. Let's see. Okay. I think I reached. No, here's a question. Okay. Forley. No, oh, it's not for me. Here we go. Someone said, oh no, not addressed to me. Oh, here one. Lei. Xi Jinping is an awesome man. Well, some people say he is because I need to take a sip of water. My mouth is really dry. Yeah, some people think he should be around for as long as he could, because everything he does, he has this magic touch to destroy the regime from within. So that's why people think he should be kept in place, because getting rid of him doesn't make sense, right? If you send in another reform-minded official who may appear to be pro-West, and that may extend the longevity of the regime inadvertently, and that's not in our favor. That's not something that the rest of the world wants. So they believe that keeping Xi Jinping in place is excellent, because let him finish his work by taking down the regime. So, okay. All right. Oh, here's a question forwarded by Chris. Why do you think so many sources got it wrong about Xi Jinping? I already answered that. Okay, I already answered that. No more questions? No more questions. Have I reached? Oh, here's one. Manny Kyla. Well, thank you for always being there for me. You have some good streams. They could be longer. You have so good streams. They could be longer. You mean my live stream programs could be longer? Okay. Why are the US and China meeting again? Good question. Why are they meeting? Why? Well, they have things they need to talk about. I think the Chinese want to talk to Trump about the 155% tariff that will kick in on November 1st. So if they don't meet, it's going to be terrible for China. So both sides want to meet, and Trump wants to talk about the rare earth. And Jimmy Lai. Yeah. Brian Cobb. We are living in the golden age of Leisrealtalk. We can tell how much work you put into your programs. Thank you for your efforts. So thank you so much. Thank you. It's not easy, I'm telling you. Stephen Strickland. Well, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that. All right, here we go. I reached the bottom. Oh, here's the wisdom to know. I love that name. I really love your presentation. I'm not a political science major and love every minute and fully appreciate the totality and the importance. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so should we end it here? And so that Lay's weekend will officially begin. Lay, you can honey trap me. All right. Okay. Wow. Is that a compliment? All right. I have no intention to trap anyone. That's the problem. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I take that as a compliment. Well, thank you very much. Stay safe. Stay out of those beautiful Chinese women. Okay. Stay out of the trouble, please. Thank you. Okay. Bye. Bye.